we are a developer platform for Bitcoin and also similar chains like Fractal. You know, if you are coming from Ethereum background, you probably heard about Alchemy or Infra. We pretty much want to do the Alchemy, but for Bitcoin like chains. Okay, it's great to be back. So last time I talked about OpCat and what kind of use cases you can build with it, and hopefully to just give you some idea. Hey, give you some inspiration what kind of business you can build if OpCat is on mainnet BTC, or maybe you have some other existing chains already have this re-enabled, such as Fractal. So today I'm just going to, it's a continuation of last talk. I'm going to show you why, how sCrypt, comes into play to help you to develop such, so-called OpCat enabled applications much easier and much faster. Okay. So just a brief, just recap for last time. So basically, I talked about this idea. Hey, it's a common misconception that Bitcoin is not supposed to do so-called, smart contract. Basically, the Satoshi, when he designed, Bitcoin, he had this so-called, so-called, in today's world, we call it smart contract in mind at the very beginning, and you use the so-called UTXO model, and you can place arbitrary spending conditions. Think about it as a lock, on every Bitcoin you own. Only if you possess the right key, it doesn't really have to be a private key. It can be any so-called weightless input. If it matches the lock, then you can spend the coin. So that's how Bitcoin smart contract work. And we talk about how Bitcoin smart contract consists of so-called Bitcoin script. Have around like 100-ish opcodes, and let's say you add numbers. You can also, then one of the most famous opcodes is today's OpCat. So basically it allows you to concatenate two elements on the stack and put it back. Okay, so it all looks good. From last time we talked about that this is like a basic. Okay, so then the question is, with all this knowledge, it sounds like very theoretical and also abstract. How do I, get hands-on experience to build using all this knowledge I've just gained? For example, what if I have OpCat of all these opcodes? What to do next? Okay, still there's some gap. That's how hopefully we can fill some of the gap today. Okay, so for people who have heard about very low level programming like assembly code, or even let's say opcode in for Ethereum virtual machine, they also have such opcodes. Okay, but even you have all, let's say you have OpCat and all this fantastic opcodes, it's still very, very difficult to build any kind of like practical applications. I'm not talking about some trivial application. For example, you only want to do a time lock, or maybe you want to only do a hash lock. Probably you can do that, but anything non-trivial is very difficult. Okay, you are writing very like almost a machine code, so you need more modern developer tools and also all the toolings infrastructures to help you build faster. Okay, so that's why sCrypt, how sCrypt comes into play. So we have a few ideas when we first started sCrypt. So basically we want to make sure whatever solution we come up with, it has to meet all these criteria. Okay, basically meaning is let's say almost like let's say you want to do AI today. You probably don't want to learn something completely new. Okay, you don't have to. You can reuse some programming language you're already familiar with. For example, Python. You don't have to learn all the new tools. You can use maybe npm, and also you don't have to give up all your existing developer tools like your favorite IDE or your favorite testing framework. We want to make sure you are just reuse all of the developing tools you are already familiar with. Okay, so that's a high level goal we want to have. Okay, when we are trying to develop, Bitcoin smart contract solutions. We want to make sure we meet all of this, and then we have been looking around. Hey, what is the landscape of so-called, all these modern high-level programming languages look like? Okay, so just give you a sense, so this, everything except the small dot you see on the left is so-called Web 2. You got, all kinds of languages. Probably you're already familiar with some of them. Most notably you have JavaScript, which is the biggest, almost close to 20 million JavaScript developer in the world, versus so-called Web 3. We may say, hey, maybe Solidity is already big enough, but compared to what? If you look at the whole developer, population is almost non-existent. It's around, let's say, less than 20,000, okay, globally. So this is like 1,000 smaller than, let's say, so-called Web 2 developers. So that's why, based on all this criteria and all this information, that's why we come up with so-called, sCrypt. Okay, I think last time I'll briefly talk about it, but this time, hopefully I can really do some deep dives and then show you how it really works in practice. Okay, so first of all, as I said earlier, so we want to make sure you don't have to learn something completely new. You don't have to give up all your favorite developer, tools you already know. Okay, we want you to reuse, you pretty much carry over all your Web 2 so-called experience into the Bitcoin world. Okay, specifically how this is achieved. So sCrypt, is a high-level language to write Bitcoin smart contract. But here's a key message, and also very important distinction versus, let's say, something like Solidity. It's not a new language. It's just a so-called the domain-specific language of type based on TypeScript. So the easiest way to understand is just a TypeScript library. You can, npm install, and then everything is ready to go. It's pretty much like is 100% TypeScript. Okay. So for example, for anybody who has done any kind of like object-oriented programming, this should be readable and easy to follow. So for example, I just have a hello world contract I want to write. I can extend my, always the base class is smart contract, and then the only, let's say, 3 different things that usually you don't see in typical Web 2 TypeScript code is, you have this so-called decorators. Basically is a way to extend the basic language syntax. So we define properties. Basically is the state or values you want to keep in the contract itself, and also methods. It's like, then how do you interact with the contract once it's deployed on chain, by calling these methods. In the method, you can usually what you can see is a lot of so-called assertions. Basically, as I said at the very beginning, so in the UTXO model of Bitcoin smart contract, you're always trying to, put some key in some kind of lock that has Bitcoin in it. So this assertion basically meaning you are checking all these conditions that are met to unlock it. Okay, so that's how every, let's say, Bitcoin sCrypt smart contract will look like. But of course, this is the simplest one, and we're going to see some very complicated examples down the road. So any questions so far?
Yeah, this is really awesome. I just have a side question. In the beginning, because you've been doing this for a long time, did you build any like thing for like DLCs or Taproot? Like basically program DLCs with Java through script?
I think DLC, yes, you can, of course, use this to code it. I've been researching it. I've not coded, but it should be, instead of spending like a few days or maybe weeks writing Bitcoin script, I think you can do this if you already know the syntax. I'm very sure you can do it in an afternoon or even sooner.